Welcome back to ReadingBear. Today, we will take a look at some new ProRevenge stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
Lie and cheat while I'm gone. You're not my problem anymore. So I am in the army and I was married. I was approaching my first deployment to Iraq. It was very stressful and it had my wife wanting me to find a way to stay and not deploy. Obvious things any wife would try to talk about. Anyways, so we have no kids but both want them. So we talk about getting out of debt while I'm gone. She talks to her best friend back home in another state where we are both from. Her friend agrees to let her move in and charge a modest $300 in rent so that we can get out of debt and start a family when I come back. A plan I was actually very pleased with. I deploy. She is there crying her eyes out saying she will miss me and loves me and we will start a family when we get back. Fast forward 2 months. She starts acting distant. Not wanting to talk much on our scheduled calls or text back 1 or 2 word answers. We've been together 6 years, she is never at a loss for words. Anyway, one day she says I need some space. She asks someone who is 10,000 miles away for space. I say why. She says she just needs space. She wants to find herself. So I remember back when we lived at home, she had a guy who was always being borderline inappropriate. I'm not a very jealous person and I trust her. So I start seeing said guy in basically all her pictures she posts with a group. Every time, he is in the picture. Everyone else changes but never him. So for the first time, I'm very jealous and uneasy about everything. So I clone her phone and I receive every text she receives as well as every text she sends. I'll never forget the first text I saw after cloning her phone. Hey babe, I'll see you after work. Want me to save you any of my leftovers? From her to him. It destroyed me. I lost 35 pounds in a week. I didn't eat or sleep. I stared at the phone watching every conversation. Watching them talk about trying to have a baby. It was literally everything a married person fears. I ask her if she is seeing someone and she says no, she isn't. She is taking care of herself and she loves me, blah blah. I don't say anything about receiving her texts for 2 months. Over this time, she finally admits cheating and that he is so much better than me at sex, treating her right, and he does what she wants. During this time she pays our debt off, gets tattoos with him, matching I love you tattoos, goes to shows with him, buys clothes, etc. with the money I'm making. So this is where revenge starts. I put a freeze on the account for a month. In that time, I change every password to every account to things she won't guess, army jargon slang terms. I block her on Facebook and my phone so she has no way to contact me. She lost her car to repo a few months later, got kicked out of her place, and had to sell her prized shoes and purses just to stay alive. I then find out she got a job at her old restaurant. So I post all the text conversations I have with her and the guy talking about having babies that have timestamps on it, as well as post conversations we had with the matching timestamps showing all of our friends what she has done. I then have friends call and complain at her job constantly on both him and her. They work at a restaurant, so I also have friends dine and dash. They both get fired. So she tries to call my command and tell them that I am abandoning her and she can't provide for herself. My commander knows what is going on. He does nothing because he had something similar happen. Then about a month before I come back, she calls me from another number to tell me she is pregnant with his kid. We got divorced before the kid was born, so I have no financial responsibility to her, haven't now for almost a year. She moved away with him. 10 hours from me. April 24, 2018. She calls me 5 months pregnant, crying uncontrollably, asking me where she should go. Apparently, they have a giant blowout of a fight. She tells him she is leaving. She says she doesn't know where to go and I simply say, sorry, not my problem anymore. Fast forward January of this year. She calls me from a mutual friend's phone. He hit me. I don't know what to do. Me, maybe, you don't cheat on your husband when he is deployed for some guy who talks a big game. Well, I guess you are happy about this? Me, no, but I'm glad I know I'm not the bad guy in this story. And then the next month. He is cheating on me with 2 girls. I'm sorry. I regret everything I did. I messed it all up. Me, yeah, you did. All in all, this woman destroyed my life. put me into a deep depression I'm still dealing with, but I do feel a little better having proof that I wasn't the problem. To think if this happened even 10 or 5 years ago, I would have come back to an empty bank account, an empty house, as well as seeing my then wife pregnant with another man's baby. She actually hit me up yesterday to ask for some money to help cover rent. Trying to get me in trouble? You're the one drinking while carrying your child. A few weeks ago, I was driving in my neighborhood playing Pokemon Go, not while driving obviously. The end of my neighborhood has a Pokestop that I collect items from every day, as you get bonus items if you collect from stops every day. This particular day was my 7th day, meaning I would get even more items and would start over from day 1 the next day. I drove to the stop, got the items, set my phone on my passenger seat and went home. The road I was driving on was 20 miles per hour, but I was going about 12 to 13 miles per hour. I drive up a small hill and turn a corner when a wild family appears, including the whole dad, AD. The wife, her friend, and the 3 kids walking by them stepped off to the side of the road to let me pass, but as I was going by, AD, who had a young boy about 3 to 4 years old in one arm and holding a Budweiser bottle in the other, important later, actually stepped closer to my car and yelled something at me. Being as I had gotten into an accident recently and was trying to be as safe as possible, I stopped the car, rolled down my window, and asked if he was all right. The conversation went as followed. Me, are you guys all right? Why did you do that? AD, you see my family, right? Me, yes, what about them? AD, you know you were driving too fast for this neighborhood, right? I should point out that I live in Illinois, and while my car was being repaired from the accident, I had a loaner car with Wisconsin plates. Me, sir, I was going only about 12 miles per hour and the limit is 20 here. I wasn't driving too fast. AD, well, you almost hit me and my son. Me, yeah, cause you stepped close to a moving vehicle. The only one putting you guys in danger was yourself. AD looks at my phone in the passenger seat. I don't know the laws in Wisconsin, but here in Illinois, you can't be on your phone while driving. I'm calling the police. Me, I don't know their laws either. This car is just a loaner. I live here in Illinois. AD, then you should know the laws. I'm calling the cops. Me, have fun with that. And with that, I just left. I know I probably should have stayed, but since I didn't actually do anything wrong, I wasn't taking his threat seriously. I went home and made some ramen to eat. As I was sitting in my dining room, I look out the window and nearly choke on my noodles. AD followed me home. He was on his cell phone with the dispatcher and I thought I was screwed. About 5 minutes later, 2 cop cars with 3 police officers, PO1, PO2, and PO3, who didn't really talk throughout the whole thing. I stepped outside thinking I was done for. The officers started to question the 2 of us. PO1, Op, do you know why we are here? Me, I have a pretty good idea what you think you're doing here, but why don't you let me know? PO1, this gentleman called us saying you attempted to run his family over after you got caught texting while driving and going way over the speed limit. My mind went blank for a few seconds. This jerk actually said that I had attempted vehicular manslaughter. My mind started working again and I said, Me, sir, that couldn't be farther from the truth. I was driving home from playing Pokemon on my phone when this man stepped close to my car while I was driving. My phone was on the passenger seat the entire ride home. AD, he's lying. He nearly killed my family. Arrest him now. PO2, sir, calm down. We'll settle this. PO1, Op, what was this man doing when the incident occurred? Suddenly, an idea popped into my head, and right there, on the fly, the revenge started. Me, he was walking with his family along the side of the road, carrying a young boy on one arm and holding a beer bottle in the other. AD, that's not true, you piece of garbage. PO2, sir, control yourself. Me, as I drove by them, the rest of his family went to the side of the road, but he actually stepped closer to my car. I think he got within an inch of me. AD, this is BS. He's just trying to protect himself. PO1, sir, if what he is saying is true, you could actually be arrested here, not him. PO2, are you sure that's what happened? Me, positive. He got way too close to my moving vehicle holding a child and a bottle of Miller Lite. AD, it wasn't Miller Lite, it was Budweiser. He cut himself off and tried to backtrack, but it was too late. All the officers looked at him. He tried to defend himself, but then PO3 said something I thought I would never hear a cop say in my life. PO3, sir, have you had anything to drink this evening? AD, now very less confident, no. They move him to one of the cop cars and gave him a breathalyzer test, 0.12%, just over the limit. Gotcha, idiot. AD ended up confessing to them that I was right and was arrested for public intoxication and child endangerment. He has to go before a judge to determine if he's a danger to his family. The officers asked if I wanted to press any charges, but I told them no, since he already had enough on his plate to deal with. Tell me what to do to get a raise, then back out? I'll take your job. I work as a subcontractor for an actually licensed contractor for a realty company. Basically, the realty company buys houses, and the contractor tells us to go to the new address, and my coworkers and I flip the house and get it ready to be rented out. When I first started a job, it was a difficult transition considering I was a plumber previously, but eventually, I became a valuable asset to contractor's company, thus the realty company as well. Contractor was infamous for being a bit of an idiot when it came to actual business and money. He was constantly yelling and screaming at the plumber, the painters, etc. about prices and how it took them too long and he wasn't paying that much, which I would understand if the yelling was actually warranted. When it became tax season, he gave everyone else a 1099 and then said he lost mine and got upset every time I asked about it. This guy makes easily $2 million a year, so he says, so I don't really think $100 off the price matters that much. Not enough to get into a screaming match and ruin relationships with the other subcontractors. I have been working for him for about a year now at $16 per hour. Not too bad for my area, but I make him a lot more a day than the $160 I make every 10-hour workday. One day I asked him for a raise, which he laughs and shuts me down immediately. After that, I decide to work harder, get houses done faster, and show him that I deserve a raise. A few months later, I decide to ask for a raise again, but not as directly. How could I be more useful to the company? So, I can increase my productivity, and both of us can make more money? He said, get a van and a trailer and then we can talk about more money, in his normal gruff tone that says, shut up and get back to work. After that day, I worked side jobs here and there. Worked a lot later than I usually would, and even all throughout the weekend. Saving up as much money as possible. I sometimes wouldn't eat some days just to save that little bit of money. He loved how much I was getting done and I could practically see the dollar signs in his eyes when I told him all that I got done every day. Finally, the day came where I saved up just enough money to buy my dad's old Ford van. Then not long after, I bought a little piece of crap 5x10 trailer that I had to fix up. The following Monday, I pull up with the bright white gas guzzler and the fixed-up trailer following behind. I walked up to him smiling ear to ear about my accomplishment, hoping he would be proud or at least happy about all that I have done. I tell him to look at my new toys and all he says is cool, and got in his truck and left. Okay, maybe he's just busy, I thought as I processed his extremely underwhelming response. At the end of the day, I finally have a moment with him to discuss my raise. So, I have the van and the trailer. I have saved up and done everything you said that I needed to do to make more money and be more of an asset to this company. He narrows his eyes at me. What are you talking about? You said that if I got a van and a trailer that you would pay me more, I said, confused. I never said any of that. You have to actually work if you want anything else from me. I was devastated. I have been working my butt off while he sat on his butt and watched. I followed every instruction, completed in the very least 2 houses a week, which he makes about $5,000 per house or so he says, and he acts like I do nothing for the company. I swallowed my pride and let out a quick, yes sir, and left his office. I was finally tired of dealing with contractor. Tired and defeated, I decided it was time to start looking for other jobs that actually had the possibility to move up. Then the company electrician gave me an idea. I am going to call him Adam for privacy reasons. Adam is a good guy all around. If you needed advice or just someone to talk to, he was always there for you. I told him about everything that has happened with contractor and told him I was looking for other jobs. He simply said, you're not supposed to be here to try and make it to the top. You're here to learn. Learn everything you can and then one day, you'll be the contractor. A better one than contractor for sure. Why not look into getting your general contracting license? It's not hard, you just have to work for it. That's what I did to an extent. I worked for contractor for years dealing with his crap. Until one day, I decided to get my electrician's license. Now, he doesn't decide what I'm paid. I do. That is if he wants me to work for him. And if not, then I have other customers to make my living. I took his words to heart and came up with a plan. Revenge. I did some research on becoming a general contractor in my state. Requirements differ in other states. Basically, I would need books to learn the material, references, a bank reference, and to pass the test. The books were pretty expensive. With bills, taking care of my family and a monthly van payment, it seemed impossible for now. Until I found a group following in my area that needed a handyman to do a variety of things. Perfect. Extra money. Soon, my name started blowing up in my small town. I did everything from repairing fences to installing toilets. I took everything I learned from plumbing and from working for contractor and used it to build a reputation. References, check. This is when I decided it was time to open my own business. Again, I did my research and learned all I had to do to open said business. I'll spare you the details, but it was basically business license, how to get an LLC, liability insurance, think of a name not already taken, blah blah blah. It took a while, but I sent in all that I had and prayed to whatever God is there for me to be invited to take the test. I waited and waited until about 3 weeks and finally, I got a letter inviting me to the next test. It was a 3-hour drive and on a Tuesday. Great, another speed bump. Have to miss work and pay $300. The day of the test came, and I panicked. It was an open book, but I eventually ran out of time and didn't get to finish. I was so disappointed in myself that I basically gave up. I just decided to keep working my job and a little side business. A week later, I was holding my son. He is a beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed reflection of myself. After I managed to get him to sleep, I stared at him and wondered if I would be able to give him a better life than I had. I remember growing up in crappy trailers, being hungry and made fun of at school because I wore clothes from Walmart. Not the best way to grow up, but I had a roof over my head. I always wanted video games that my friends had but never got it. I wanted to go to trampoline parks and water parks. I've only been once in my entire life. That's about when my resolve renews itself within me. I had to do this. Not only for me but for him. I saved up all over again and came up with the $300 and requested for a retake of the test. I took practice tests online, so I was ready. The day came and I barely managed to pass. But I still passed the test and received my license. Now time for the fun part. With all of the time passing, I became pretty close friends with the owner of the realty company. Going to BBQs, stopping to tell him some corny joke I saw on Facebook, he loved puns, and doing extra tasks not under contractor. One day, I came into his office and saw some invoices from contractor on his desk. I just said, "Wow, that's how much you're paying him? Dude, he should at least take it a little bit easy on you since you have known each other for so long." He just nodded and said, "You think so?" and he just looked at the papers more. Since then, I would say little comments about how much contractor was getting paid and how many houses we could buy with that money. Just planting seeds in his mind that I slowly water until they turn into a beautiful garden of resentment. Finally, owner calls me and wants me to come to his house for a beer and to talk business. We've done this a few times before. It's usually about his wife or the hit last time he played golf. I pull into his driveway, and he told me to meet him out back. After the usual "how are you," he tells me that he and contractor had a bit of an argument and they are limiting him from now on. Then, he turned to me and said, "There is a meeting Friday. I want you there at 9 o'clock. I hesitate. I wasn't sure what it could have been. "Sure, I'll be there," I managed to say calmly through a scrambled mind. A few beers and stories about fishing trips, I headed home. So I go to the meeting, and as I go in everyone shook my hand. Some I've seen before and said my "hi, how are you" to, others I have never met in my life. This was an investor meeting. Some of these people are worth figures in the 9 digits. I was internally freaking out after finding out, but if you've read, you'd know I know how to keep my cool. After our greetings, we sat down and waited. It wasn't clear who we were waiting on until an hour later contractor walks in with his usual stained t-shirt and cargo shorts, while I am in a nice dress shirt and tie. Figured I would look nice for this. Everyone made a face and greeted contractor while we got in settled again. Contractor didn't seem to notice me until we all sat back down. I saw him do a double take and give me a look that said, "What the hell are you doing here?" I had requested today off, so I could only imagine what he was thinking. After introducing the new investors to the old investors, owner got started saying about how we were going to have an amazing 2019 and an amazing future for the company. I suppose he was just hyping up the new guys so they would invest more. About 2 hours of production values and budget stuff blah blah, he turned to me and said, I would just like to take the time to congratulate Op for passing the general contractor's exam and his newly acquired business. I smiled and thanked him, then he continued. As we are growing, we have a demand for new and inspiring people within our company. After hearing about OP's success in both our company and his, I would like to personally ask him a question in front of the whole team. My heart pounding in my throat as each word sounded slower than the last. I took a side glance at contractor, is visibly sweating at this point. Op, how would you like to be our new property manager? You may still have your business and do your own work. But we will pay you exclusively to be our personal contractor and help take care of all new and old properties. Everyone turns to me and I take a second to respond. Just then contractor stands up and says, what the F? I'm your goddamn contractor. I've been your contractor for over a decade. You can't just replace me for some dipsh *T that doesn't know what he is doing. Owner smugly looks at contractor and says, we're not replacing you. You will just answer to him now. All tasks, orders, and billing will go through him now. If you would like to still work for us, granted you mind your mouth and tone, you will run anything you do by Op. Contractor looks enraged and he turns to me, you're fired. You have no business here anymore, now leave. Owner chuckles, and says, you don't have that power anymore. As long as Op agrees to my question. I turn to him and say, are you sure you can afford me? I laugh and shake his hand. Yes. This is all I have ever wanted. All that I have worked for. Now we can get some real work done. I have to admit something, I've been practicing that response since I was asked to come to this meeting, lol. Contractor stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him, and I didn't see him for the rest of the day. After he left, we continued to discuss the goals for this year, and it's out they bought 60 new houses for me to work on with the investors' money, and he just looked at me and said, can you handle that? I happily said, yes, sir, trying to keep my eyes from watering. All I thought about was my family and how proud they would be of me. In a little under a year, I received a great license, my own business, and pretty much non-stop work. If there is anything you can take from reading this, I hope it will be this: don't settle in life. Be hungry to better yourself, and be the best person you can be. The only person stopping you is yourself. Thanks for listening.